from your perspective, what separates simply using AI in their services from actually creating an AI-powered asset that delivers a lot of value for their clients and internal teams?
Because using AI inside the service usually means improving productivity. I think companies are getting crazy about this productivity goal, right? Everyone wants to be more productivity, and you write content faster, you can generate images faster, analyze data faster. Tools like ChatGPT and others, or visual generators such as Nano Banana and other great tools, do help accelerate this task. But fundamentally, I think companies are still selling the same thing, execution. But that is the trick point. An AI power asset is different. It's something that continues generating value even when no one is actively working on it. It's like making money during while you are sleeping. For example, instead of selling campaigns, an agency could build a system that continuously analyzes customer behavior, generate insights about messaging and other points, and suggest new campaign directions. Tools like Notebook LM or Perplexity can help build the intelligence layer behind these systems. So the difference is simple, just to summarize. When AI is used only to produce outputs faster, you still have a service business. But when AI is used to create systems that learn and improve over time, you start creating assets that generate ongoing value. It's much better, and it's a mindset shift.
So in your view, what transforms a prompt into a workflow, and when does that workflow become something closer to a strategic asset?
Yeah, that's a good question, because as I mentioned in the class one about people are getting crazy about the best tools, people are also getting crazy about what's the best prompt, how I improve my prompt. But I think prompt is basically a question, right? It's useful, but it's just the beginning. And we are talking here about a workflow. So workflow appears when you connect multiple steps together. For example, research, idea generation, that things that I was presenting in the class one. So analysis, execution, etc. Each step informs the next one. But a workflow becomes a strategic asset when three things happen. First, it integrates real data from the business, as we talk a lot. Second, it becomes repeatable and structured. And third, it generates insights that influence decisions. So at that point, the workflow is no longer just helping someone write faster or create content faster. It's helping the company think better and make better decisions. So the prompt is not the final goal, but just the beginning. And as we have rules for talking and writing in some languages, we have some rules and best practice for prompts as well.
What tends to separate simple automation from AI systems that actually support high-level strategic decision-making?
Yeah, automation usually focuses on tasks, right? It helps execute repetitive activities more efficiently. Strategic AI systems, as we are talking here, are different. They focus on insight generation and decision support. It's different than only automate one task. Okay, I want to send an email. It's great. You can automate the email process. But the difference here is when you automate not only a specific task, but also something deeper. In other words, automation answers the question, how can we do this task faster, right? A strategic AI system answers the question, what should we do next and why? So let me show you a couple of tools. But the point here is those systems combine multiple elements: data analysis, pattern recognition, contextual knowledge, and sometimes predictive capabilities. So when those pieces come together, AI stops being just an operation tool and becomes a thinking partner. Let me show you something that I loved. We have a lot of options like N8N, Flowwise, Make. I can share all these links later. But again, as we talk about prompts, most people are struggling when they start to create a workflow like that. And let's see something about N8N. That's the leader one of the best tools for do that. I like instead of starting from scratch, I like to use some templates. So I can go in this website in HN slash workflows, and I can search, for example, I search something about just agency, and I have this template. Look, use for free. You click here, you just copy the template, and you have this, boom, agency profitability monitor. They create all the steps. Let's show you in more details here. So for start a task, I want to have a trigger, right? A trigger could be a client sending a message, could be input from my WhatsApp, etc. So I can, of course, we need to set up all these triggers, and it's more complex to show now. But just to show you guys how I can use templates and speed up my process. Look this. I can connect to a Facebook API, run the Facebook ads, and put all these things together, including get a campaign, Google Ads, Shopify, etc. The Stripe payment methods, etc., etc., and populate this in a message. I can have, for example, chat, or another agent just to create a campaign, another agent just to create images, another agent just to analyze the results of my campaign, and then aggregate all of this and send me a checklist or something that I need to decide. We call this human in the loop. You know, we have all these agents working for you, and then you can create a component when you say, okay, this is something that I want to decide. Then you send to a human for yourself, for example, to decide, and then you go.
I think that many companies or agencies so far, right, like at least a good part of them, have tried to adopt AI, have adopted AI like solutions in various parts of their business, but they're not yet seeing an increase in margins per se, right? Do you have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, it occurs a lot, not only with agents, but with every client that I talk to. It happens mainly because most companies, as we said before, they adopt AI at the operation level, not at the business model level. You know, they use AI to produce the same outputs that they are used to faster. Content, campaigns, reports, designs. So productivity increase, but the structure of the service doesn't change. So when the structure of the service doesn't change, the pricing model usually doesn't change either, right? It's funny because I work in a company that I look at all the things that we could do with AI, and they work with call center, right? They have a lot of call center people there, attendants, and I say, okay, we don't need all these people, right? We can use AI, you can have the avatars, etc. And then the director of the area say, are you crazy, man? Because my business model, I charge the client by the number of people that we employ and that we have giving the service for the client, right? And then I said, you don't need like 1,000 people. And then he said, okay, but I charge 1,000 plus a margin, right? So we need to shift this business model. So in many cases, the opposite actually happens. As AI makes execution easier, clients start questioning why they should pay the same price for something that appears easier to produce, right? Okay, we will spend 10 minutes to do this presentation. I don't want to pay you, right? It's so easy. But the mindset shift is, so the company captures efficiency, but the market captures the value, right? The real opportunity here is not using AI to produce deliverables faster. The opportunity here is using AI to redesign what the company actually sells. So instead of selling tasks, agents can sell intelligent systems, as we talk about and as we show a little bit, that continuously generate insights and improvements. When the client depends on the system, it's like a lock-in, right? Not just the output, they depend on the system you create is unique for them. Margins change dramatically.
If you're an agency owner looking to scale, you definitely want to explore our solutions at Stealth White Label Agency. With 14 years of experience and over 120 niches, we've been helping agency owners not only fulfill for their clients, but also acquire new clients so you can only focus on scale for your agency. If you're interested, definitely DM me, Joao, on my Instagram, or comment below and somebody's gonna reach back to you. Back to the podcast. Okay. But so in that example, like, are you changing the pricing structure with the client, and what are you changing it to?
Yeah, we are seeing a lot of discussions about the new model that we call SaaS. But instead of software as a service, it's service as a software, right? You can create, yeah, it's funny, right? You can create, it's pretty much, it's easier to create a system, right? A software. You can provide then, give to the client with no programming skills. You can create something different and charge in a different way. Instead of say, okay, for this Facebook campaign, I would charge $1,000. This is my fee. You don't charge that. You can have a success fee, for example, or you can have a monthly fee instead of just one-time job, right? You lock in your client in this approach.
You know, there is a talk of like a concept of like, what's going to happen to service providers with AI? Are we going to be replaced, right? And so the shift, I think, for service providers has really been to become more tech-driven, right? And integrated with the client, where you're integrating your intelligence, your different AI stack, right? Into plugging it into their data sources, right? So think about integrating an AI with the Meta's API of their ad accounts. And then that pulls all of the data from the ad campaigns. Now you connect another tool to that that's going to be coming up with new campaign ideas. You connect a different tool that's going to be coming up with different marketing ideas, right? So not only ads, but also other approaches to marketing. And then a different tool that creates all of the videos and images for the campaigns. And creating like a loop of AI tech stack that takes data sources, adds aggregate value, and can eventually like output that automatically into campaigns, for example. And then you store all of that history and all of those changes and make your AI models for your specific client more intelligent. Now you're sticky, right? Now you build not only a service, but a stickiness where the client is not going to be able to just, churn on you and say, I want to cancel tomorrow. You already have like 1 year of an algorithm being built that's being refined over time and works so well for them, right? So I think that's a big shift in how agencies are providing service. I think like being able to do that is now your task as an agency owner. Why do you think this shift is happening? Why are agencies not just building a SaaS and packaging that into a product and selling it to clients?
Yeah, it does make sense. My point here is that create things is becoming cheaper and cheaper and easier, and you don't need a technical team. Of course, you need you need a technical team to review and to make a security approach and so on and so forth. But my guess, my reflection here is that it's easier to do that now with all these tools, all these vibe coding, and you break the barrier of being a technical person to do that, right? That's the point. You can sell whenever you want, different business models, different revenue frameworks, but the thing is that agency owner can create a software. This is something that completely changed the market, in my opinion, right?
Is there any piece of advice that you'd like to give to agency owners?
Yeah, and John, first of all, thanks for the opportunity. To be a pleasure to be here and talk to your audience. My advice, as we mentioned a lot during our session, is would be to companies and agents, stop thinking about AI as a tool and start thinking about it as an architecture, how we integrate stuff, right? Not only what's the best tool for this and that. Of course, we showed some tools. They're awesome. But ask yourself, what decisions does my client need to make frequently? And how could I build a system that improves those decisions over time? That's the point. So way agents shift from producing outputs to design intelligent systems, their role becomes much more strategic. And that's where the real opportunity lies.